In the world of podcasting, it's important that you stay hydrated. That's why you should pick me.
In the world of podcasting, you got to keep your carbs up. Proof move. Is the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top four and nothing more. Andy, it is a new month. We are moving into September. We just finished Nostalgia Month. What a great time with all of our friends. But we're moving into a new season, if you will. We've already done a couple sports before, but there is a big sport coming up right now that is going to sweep across the nation, across the globe, and we have to talk about some football. Man, are you ready to talk about some football?
Are you ready for some football? They should make a song.
Are you
like
ready
that.
for some football?
Hey, I am very pumped about this. This is one of the months that I kind of circled on the calendar. I knew we were going to get to football. It's crazy to think we're already in September. We've come this far in the show.
9 months, dude.
Right,
9 months. I think, what, episode 36?
Yeah. So this is going to be such a fun episode. Very excited about it. And look, we have a special friend with us today. We bring in a guest every week. This is one of our guys here, Megan Slidell from church, big sports fan. He needs to repent of the team that he's rocking today, but it's okay. Forgiveness is for everyone. No, we are welcoming on Ezra Cayson. What's up, bro? Welcome to
Ezra. Welcome to the show, man.
Look, I've been getting that rebuke ever since I moved to Slidell.
Yeah,
my Rams jerseys and hats and everything else, man.
Yeah, he bravely wears it to staff meeting. He rocks it at church. He's not afraid. I do like that. So,
well, at least they're winning now. I mean, if you would have rocked them back in New Orleans back like 90, 91 when Flipper Anderson was there and they were really not that great. Yeah, he would have probably got a lot more hate. Now it's really hard to talk bad about a team that's at the top. So, but yeah, we still don't like them because they cheated and the referees cheated. And
I was gonna say,
and I'm sure we'll get into that.
That was a different situation. Our jerseys and stuff are blue and gold or yellow, but that was black and white uniforms.
But look, man, we're going to talk about Rushmores this month of football-oriented things. And while we were kind of going back and forth, let's get Ezra on. Andy said that Ezra has an idea. Let's do the Rushmore of Super Bowls. Now, man, this is a tough one. So I hope you guys are ready. We're going to do the Rushmore of Super Bowls.
Let's get it.
All right, Rushmore Show. Gosh, how are we going to start the beginning of the year with the biggest game at the end of the year? But okay, we're going to start off this football season with Rushmore of Super Bowls. Andy, I know you've put the time in. We kind of talked about it. Tell us your criteria of how you were thinking about picking these games, and then start us off with Rosie.
Yeah. So for me, there's so many Super Bowls that have happened. It was, you can easily pick 4 in that because there's just so many of them. But my top 4 to be criteria, I had to actually have watched the game. Now, there's great games in the past before my time that I can respect, and I've seen highlights, and maybe they rank as one of the top Super Bowls in most analysts' minds. And no disrespect to those, but I just wasn't around to watch it or just didn't watch it. So my top 4, number 1, I had to watch. So they're a little bit more recent, within the 2000s-ish time. So that's going to be kind of my main criteria. And then after that, I don't think it's anything, just crazy. They had to be an entertaining game. Like either maybe there was a comeback involved with it. Maybe there was just amazing plays that I can remember. And that's really my criteria. I saw it and it was a good game. So, I mean, that's not mind blowing, anything revolutionary. But that's what I went for when I was picking my top.
So essentially, there's 56 Super Bowls, right? And you just celebrated a birthday. So all the ones prior to like 1995 are automatically eliminated, is what
You
you're
can
saying.
go past that too. Yeah, I'm not even going back that far. I'm not even going back that far.
Kirk, you probably won't go back no further than about probably 2008. For
Okay. So let's get into it. I'm gonna tell you my Rosie, my number 4. The very entertaining game took place in New Orleans. Unfortunately, did not involve the Saints, but it took place in New Orleans, and we're gonna go back to Super Bowl 47. Super Bowl 47 is my Rosie. The Ravens beat the 49ers in the Superdome. Think about this. A lot of things kind of went into this. First of all, you have two brothers coaching against each other. This is called the Harbaugh Bowl, right, by many people. So 2013 is when this was happening. Ravens beat the 49ers 34-31. Now, what's interesting, when you look at that score, you're like, man, wow, that was just tough, close. To be honest, the Ravens were blowing out the 49ers for most of the game. And then something crazy happened. Beyonce plays the halftime, okay? And coming out of halftime, that's the night when the lights went out in NOLA. Like, the lights went out. The lights cut off. And there's like now this, there's this conspiracy theory. Like, was this planned? Did the NFL try to rig this so Colin Kaepernick and the Niners could come back and win? I don't know if that, I wouldn't put it past the NFL to do something crazy, but I don't think that was part of it. But very unique that there's a delay because the lights went out in the Superdome. And then, from that point on, the 49ers made a strong push, but just not enough. And Joe Flacco, the elite Joe Flacco, wins that Super Bowl. You call him elite if you want. That was a topic. That was a talking point at one point. But the Ravens win the Super Bowl. On top of all of that, you've got, this is Ray Lewis. This is him sending him off, right? You got Ed Reed as part of this defense. And just so many big names that come to mind when you think of the Baltimore Ravens, especially on the defensive side. And my Rosie, the Ravens beating the 49ers in the year. It was the 2012 season, but it happened in 2013 for Super Bowl number 47. You guys remember that one?
Yeah, man, this is probably one of the ones I'm going to have to scratch off our honorable mention for segment 2, mainly because of the whole lights going out in New Orleans, Colin Kaepernick losing to what was basically a nobody Joe Flacco, who gets this huge contract and basically never fulfills his contract for the rest of his time being an NFL athlete. The Harbaughs, you name it. The Ravens, the very first Super Bowl they won was probably one of the best defenses ever to live. Mm-hmm. And this was built on defense, but Joe Flacco had the playoff stretch of a career in those.
That's how he got his contract. Was those?
Yeah, I mean, you would have expected the defense to have done it, but Flacco really, if you go back and look at that whole run, Flacco was insanely good.
He beat Peyton Manning and Tom Brady in that postseason or something like that. Like, he ran the gauntlet.
I don't remember exactly who all he beat, but I remember seeing a meme not long ago of kind of that run and like the amount of yards, the touchdowns, the lack of interceptions, the percentages. It was just a really good run. So
never again to replicate that. So
no. Ezra, what you think?
Well, I like it because it was, again, we go with Ray Lewis and just his whole celebrated career. The dude started off with adversity, coming into the league with different things from college and so on and so forth. And then you look at, nobody expected the Ravens to really do what they did with the first one. I want to say that was in 2000. But yeah, Joe Flacco most definitely earned his money and has been a journeyman ever since. Yeah. I like that one. Of course, that's not mine, but when you get to me, we'll go through the motions.
Sounds good, man. Yeah. So there you go. There's my Rosie. But now, Kirk, let's move to you. Okay. How is your criteria any different than mine? How did you pick your top 4?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go with the criteria being pretty similar. As far as it had to be entertaining. Most of these games that I thought of, one, you're going to think of teams or players that you're fans of, right? I'm a fan of these teams. Like sometimes there's a Super Bowl, it's really good, but I'm sitting in the recliner watching and I don't have any dog in the race. I don't, and you're trying to find, as a sports fan, you always try and pick maybe the underdog, or you try and pick maybe a good story or whatever to cheer for. Sometimes there's just guys you just don't like and you're never going to cheer for them. So when I put it all together, I said these are probably my four favorite memorable games. Like there were memories involved with it, and there were players or teams and events that were happening that I just really like. So not too different. My top four are games that I did see actually, later. It wasn't any older, but some of my honorable mentions are some older ones. So I didn't necessarily nix them all out because I didn't see them, but obviously an older game's not going to resonate with me because I saw it on, NFL films. So here you go. My number four, my Rosie, is probably one of my favorite games because of the two teams involved. We're really up and coming at the time. So I'm going to go. This game happened. Here you go. It's happened in the year 2000, right? I'm going with Super Bowl Rams over the Titans. And I know, Ezra, you're a big fan over there of the Rams. So I'm sure you're going to bring this one up probably later. If you're not a real fan. So this is Super Bowl 34, halftime show. Phil Collins, Christina Aguilera. But here's the thing. This is what I remember most about this. One, the story of Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner came off a bag of chips, dude. Like, this dude was bagging groceries. He was working in the Arena Football League. He was playing for the Barnstormers. This guy is a man of God. He's an amazing Christian guy, a great Hall of Famer, statistics out of the roof, the greatest show on turf. And one of my favorite players of all time was in his backfield with Marshall Faulk out of New Orleans. Love that guy. But then you flip the script and the team that they're playing, right? The Titans, right? You got Steve McNair, who comes out of small HBCU, I think, right? Alcorn State, I think he came from, actually. Let me just tell you, I've met this guy when I was in the slow pitch softball circuit. He loved slow pitch softball so much, the Titans had to make him quit playing softball or they were going to cut him because they were scared he was going to get hurt. So he started supporting the McNair Classic, and all these teams would come in and play the McNair Classic. What a great guy he was. Obviously, he fell into some scandals and lost his life tragically. But then Eddie George, man, and just some of the other players, Holt, Bruce, all those guys. I just love both of these teams, the matchup. And when you talk about exciting, you know, Dick Vermeil, one of my favorite coaches of all time, he led one of my teams as well, the Chiefs. He goes and gets his Super Bowl with these guys. The Warner leads them down with the pass to Bruce to go ahead, and they're like a minute and 60 left. We got a minute and 60 left, minute and 54, I think. Let's shut this thing down. And McNair drives them down to one freaking step away. And I have to give it to you. My boy Kevin Dyson just misses the end zone to lose the game. And gosh, what a great game that was. Super Bowl, I think 34, year 2000. That's going to start my Rosie. It had to be on my list. It's one of my favorite that I ever watched. And yeah, man. And actually, I was cheering for the Rams the next year too, Ezra. So then that didn't work out. So anyways, there you go. My Rosie. Bottom of the barrel. It's keeping a few off the list, but good old McNair versus Warner.
And here's the thing, that one, the shot right behind you right now, the picture that you brought up, when you talk about some of the most classic shots in NFL history, like moments that if we were to do a Rushmore, this would probably land somewhere on our top four for that as well, because just the 1 yard short he's obviously trying to stretch it out, and clearly he's short. But man, one of the most clutch plays from a defensive
I remember
side of all time.
Vermeil, gosh, because I like Vermeil so much. He was such a great coach and a great guy, great mentor. I've seen this video a few times, but he's like, the only way we can lose is if you let that guy scramble. And McNair started scrambling and going all over the place. It's working his way down.
Yep.
And it's like 6 seconds left, less than 10, maybe 12 yards to go. And they throw a little slant to Dyson. Dyson's got the end zone. He's got the end zone, an amazing tackle. And he holds on to keep him from getting that yard. Dude, great game. This is entertaining. This is what you want a Super Bowl to look like, coming down to the very end. Two teams that hadn't won ever. It was their first. Either one would have been their first. And, it was just a good game. I love it. And Marshall Faulk. That's all you got to say. Faulk and Warner, those two are two of my favorite tandems in the history of the sport.
So, Ezra, without giving too much away, because I have a feeling this is somewhere up there, you just give us some brief thoughts on this game without giving too much away.
That particular game, of course, it has significance for me just because that was like the year that I actually had a home team. You guys grew up in the area, so you have the Saints that you're rooting for from like when you were pups all the way to now. Whereas where I grew up in Mississippi, and Steve McNair went to Grambling. He went to Grambling State, and Alcorn, my pops went. He was way out of school, but either way, that particular season was a season I moved to St. Louis, and so that like started my love with the Rams. I kind of liked them when they were in LA, but when I moved to St. Louis, I had a team to root for, and some of the things that I heard on the radio that because the team was bad up to that point, and long story short, the city just had no respect for the team. And not until they started winning, it's like the whole city got behind them and things of that nature. But I'm like, man, if this is my home team, this is my home team. And they've been that.
Think about it. Would they still have won it if they would never have made just the crazy decision to put a grocery bagger in over your star Malk Bulger quarterback? I mean, really?
Yeah. When Trent Green went down, man.
Oh, yeah. It was Trent Green at that time. So Trent Green, not Mark. Yeah. And he went and played for the Chiefs, my team, man. Yep. So he was a great player.
Played for Vermeil after that. But if he hadn't went down, man, it was just like, man, if would they have won if Trent had played, But like I said, once everything started happening, it was like everything just fell into place. It was one of the best seasons ever, for real.
Good stuff. So, hey, we're gonna go to Ezra now, but before you kind of give us your criteria and your Rosie, talk really briefly why we brought you on. I know you're obviously a big Rams fan, big football fan in general. And you actually have.
Tell us about your show.
You have your own show. Tell us about your podcast.
My podcast is Welcome to the League, WTTL. We're on Spotify and YouTube, and we've been doing it. We started this year a little bit after you guys. We're about 12 or 13 episodes in and doing pretty decent. We started from a small group, man, at our church. We got a fantasy league. Andrew's in there. He came in after me. It was my first year doing fantasy and the whole nine, and I'm like, man, I'm loving this stuff. I'm kind of addicted to it.
So you went and joined our fantasy league,
Right. Yeah, I'm waiting for the draft. So
that's coming soon.
Better than my last one. Man, I think people were trying to get in on me, but either way, we've been going for a minute. Me and John Estopinal or Beanie, you'll see him on the graphics and stuff. But yeah, man, we've been doing pretty good. We talk about everything football. Everything that a fan would talk about is what we talk about. Yeah, that's what we're doing. So check us out.
Dude, we would love to continue this relationship. Ezra has been a friend of ours. Ezra sings on the worship team over at the church that Andy and I have attended, served, worked, and now we all have attended and been on staff with them. Ezra's on staff as on the worship side, and his wife's been on staff with it. Like, it's a part of the church and just a big thing. The small group is actually not that particular small group, but fantasy football is one of the reasons I even met Andy.
Yeah.
Or at least I knew who he was, but became acquainted. And so with that being said, man, football has brought us three together. It's a great time. So look, our fantasy league is launched. We got 10 teams in it. We're going to have some fun with it. We're going to announce weekly winners and stuff over our episodes and or things and stuff as we go. And we're coming up with some fun loser awards and winner awards. So it's a fun time, and we're gonna have a great time. So, Ezra, welcome to the league, buddy. Welcome to the league over here, the Rushmore Show. And hey, we're going to put his descriptions in down in the bottom for his podcast and him and Beanie. And Beanie's always in the comments, so y'all talk to him. He's down there. But anyways, Ezra, tell us what you're thinking when you're doing these Super Bowls. Criteria, and then number 4 is Rosie. So tell us about Rosie.
Okay, so our my Rosie was something that I kind of try not to go too deep, but I was thinking, how have these Super Bowls changed culture for the NFL? How have these Super Bowls affected not just the league, but just, how we look at sports in general? And so my Rosie is Super Bowl 28 with the Buffalo Bills and the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
Ooh. The reason why I chose this one is because this Super Bowl has Hall of Fames. Man, it has Hall of Famers all through it. I mean, from who we have? Thurman Thomas, I think it was. You got
Bruce Smith,
Michael
Jim
Irvin,
Kelly.
Bruce Smith, Kelly. Yeah. I mean, Marv Levy was coaching. Jimmy Johnson was coaching.
Wide Right was on the team.
Man, shoot. And I don't think was it Don Beebe? I think it is. Nobody really talks about Don Beebe, dude.
Bro, when that dude landed on his head.
Yeah, Don Beebe was raw, dude. I mean, I'm just saying, Don Beebe was like one of those guys. He come up like super clutch. He kind of reminds me of like Ricky Prohl. Nobody expected Ricky Prohl to be dangerous playing for the Rams, but Don Beebe was that dude. So that's was
a great white hype, dude. It's a great white hype.
Come on. So the other reason why I like this particular game is because it was the fourth and final year that the Buffalo Bills went to 4 consecutive Super Bowls. I don't know any other team that's done it. I know that teams have been to 4, but not 4 in a row. Yeah. And when we look at that game, we see them as losers versus this actually was a dynasty team. They just didn't go over the hurdle, because they went 4 in a row. They played Dallas twice. That was the second time they played them. Unfortunately, Dallas had the number even more in that game because the second half they didn't score. But it was just the effect that the Bills had on the AFC. It was almost guaranteed that they were going to the Super Bowl those 4 years. Especially after that second year, everybody was looking at it. They made changes and things of that nature, but I think it's one of those teams that you look at. Nobody else has done it. Yeah. Going to 4 in a row. There's teams that have won 6. Okay, great, but you've never been to 4 in a row. It's hard for a team to repeat and go. And I know I'm looking at the team that actually lost, but when you see that Super Bowl, man, it was just like it literally was. It was a losing dynasty, but nonetheless, it was still like one of those teams that was a dynasty, and that was a game that I liked, and it also helped me to like football even more. So
I'm going to bring up a hypothetical question because I often think about this. The whole going to 4 Super Bowls is crazy. Okay, Dallas wins, right? Like it's funny. We talk about the loser, right? But it is a big feat. I want to get your opinion, both of you. Here's your would you rather. Would you rather go to 4 straight Super Bowls and lose like the Bills, or never have gone to a Super Bowl?
For me, I would have still rather have gone and lost than not gone at all. How's that phrase go? It's better to have loved than lost than never have loved at all.
Right. Okay.
So I would have rather have gone. I know that's like the pinnacle of the NFL to get there and to win, but the teams that have never won or just never gone is crazy.
Yeah.
So I would say to go. I mean, because here's the thing: as a competitor, as an athlete, you're a winner, dude. You're a winner, and regardless if you lose in the last game of the year or you lose, the first game of the playoffs or whatever, a loss is a loss. You don't want to lose at all. But to have the idea that you've worked your way, you have playoff experience, you're battling with the best teams in the world, and you were that close. I mean, you're always going to be like laces out, wide right, all these other things.
Laces out.
But here's the thing. I think Jim Kelly and those guys can hold their head up high over a lot of teams. There's like 7 teams that have. I don't think it's 7 now. I think it's like 4 or 5 that have never even gone, right? The Lions, the Jaguars. There's like 4
Texans,
or 5.
I mean, they're new. Yeah, Texans haven't been.
Some of those are fairly new, but for the most part, never even gone.
We have made it through our Rosies. We're starting off strong, man. It's already. I can tell it's going to be a great mountain.
All right, Rushmore Show. We are at our number 3 on our mountain. We are going to go through TJ, Jazzy, Jeff, Andy. What you got for our next round?
Okay, so my next 3 have something specific that is just very endearing when it comes to sports. One of these things that is just amazing when it comes to sports. Why people love sports. Okay, and my first one. Here's my criteria here. People in sports. What is better than an underdog story? Okay, so we're gonna pick this one right here. Is the ultimate upset. I would say at least of times with me watching Super Bowl. I'm sure. I mean, there's been plenty of upsets. But when it comes to the time when I was watching Super Bowls, this might be one of the biggest upsets that I've ever experienced. And we are going to go for TJ, Jazzy, Jeff, none other than Super Bowl 42, year 2008, the Giants over the Patriots, baby. Okay, for many reasons. All right, so the Patriots, perfect season on the line, right? This is happening. You've got just this. What's never happened before. The Miami Dolphins of 1972 are on the edge of their seat. They're about to get dethroned as the most wins in the season. And for what everybody believed, Tom Brady, right, the GOAT, what everyone wants to say, is leading his team, and they should have no problem in this Super Bowl, except for his kryptonite. Eli Manning was the opposing quarterback. When you look at the final score of this game, 17-14, doesn't seem very appealing, although I do like close games. So I don't need it to be 45-38, whatever. But so 17-14 was the final score. The New York Football Giants beat the unbeatable Patriots. And okay, we can't talk about this Super Bowl without mentioning one of the greatest plays of all time. Okay, so Eli's back there getting destroyed. There's the picture behind Kirk. Getting destroyed. His shirt, his jersey's being ripped to shreds, and he just chucks up this whatever. I mean, Hail Mary. Like, there's literally it should have been intercepted, if not incomplete. I mean, it was just a last-ditch effort. Throws it up there, and David Tyree, the great David Tyree. Tell me about another play or time you've ever heard his name since then or before then. Goes up and catches it, and I don't even know if he deserves credit for the catch, but David Tyree's helmet, the helmet catch. It's one of the most infamous plays. We talked about in Your Rosie, one of the best shots of all time is that 1 yard short, right, of the end zone. This has got to be on there too. This picture that's behind you now, Kirk, of David Tyree and the helmet catch. There's plays that go down in NFL history that defensively, I don't believe the Patriots could have done anything better. I don't think they could have done anything different. I don't think they could have that the outcome of that play could have changed. There's just times when the ball just bounces your way, right? I mean, it just happens. And this is one of those moments in life where you get to witness. I remember distinctly watching this game. I rooted for the Giants the whole time because, of course, I'm going to root against Tom Brady. And you're in it the whole game, right? All this, it's at this point it was what was it 14-10, and just when that happened, standing up, and I wasn't even yelling. Like normally, it's like I just stood up and I was speechless. I couldn't say anything. You're like, did this actually happen? Okay, they're gonna have to review it and figure out did he actually come down with the catch. And then it goes on from there, and people forget like that didn't end the game. Like that kept the game going, and then momentum went 100% the Giants' way. But it had to end with Eli throwing it to Plaxico Burress right there in the end zone for that final touchdown to win the game. At that point, 17-14, and the Patriots had nothing there. So I'm going to go Super Bowl, what was that, 42. We're talking about the Giants beating the Patriots, ending the perfect season chance, and one of the greatest plays of all time. So it's behind you right now, Kirk. But Ezra, let me go to Ezra real quick. Ezra, maybe it's on your list too. I don't know. So if it is, don't share too much about it. But do you remember watching this game?
Yes, I do remember watching this game. And yes, I do remember rooting against Tom Brady, because we'll talk about that later. I mean, Tom Brady is most definitely not a, at least he didn't used to be a talking point for me. Blood pressure would kind of increase. So when Tyree caught this ball between the helmet, I don't know what that substance is that they use in baseball on the pitchers.
Pine tar.
Yeah, I don't know if he was using that, or if he had
some Gorilla Tack.
Yeah, right. I don't know if he had Gorilla Glue, but either way, that ball stuck, and I'm like, yeah. And I'm not a big Giants fan like that, right, but I love football. Tom Brady going down at the hands of, like you said, nobody. Yeah. I'm like, man, who's David Tyree again? You know how people start looking up, hey, can you pull up and see where did he go to school? Was he community college? Was he undrafted? All these things came out. But yeah, that right there for me was so gratifying to see that happen.
Kirk. I have to agree. And I broke my own rule, and I had to share the picture because it's my TJ Jazzy Jeff with a Rushmore. Rushmore, baby. This is my Super Bowl pick for my number 3 on the mountain. Multiple reasons why. The catch, Brady losing, Tom Petty did the halftime show.
Okay, yeah, I didn't say that.
Yeah, Tom Petty did the halftime show. Eli Manning wins, right? The year after or the year before his brother wins. Is that what I think it was year after, right? Year after, I think was so. Like the Manning brothers went back to back.
Yeah.
They went back to back. Undefeated season. Look, the big O in LY. The only reason I would have even pulled for the Patriots was Randy Moss was on that team.
Yes.
Yeah. That is it. 100%. I pulled for the Patriots twice in my life. Twice. This was not one of them. The first time and the time they played the Panthers. But let me just say, every other time I'm pretty much not going. One more time too. But I'm sure that one's getting mentioned later.
We'll talk about that one later.
We'll talk about it later. And then, but here it is. Undefeated season, underdog, the catch. I mean, the shirt getting yanked out. Manning's a New Orleans boy. Mm-hmm. I played against Manning, both of them, because I was in between their ages, I believe. So I'm in between. So I played against Peyton and he was older than me, and Eli, he was younger than me. And in baseball, actually, and dude, Eli had a freaking cannon. Dude, he had a cannon. That dude threw so hard in baseball. This is going to be my number 3 on the mountain. Real easy choice right here. And I remember exactly where I was at. This is the really cool thing about this one. This is, again, you're like, why would you pick that one? Aside from all those other things we mentioned, I was so uninterested in this Super Bowl because it's like the frickin' Patriots are going to go undefeated. Like I had no idea that the Giants are going to win. Didn't give them a chance. We decided to go to a Mardi Gras parade. I believe it was Bacchus or Endemic. Well, it's a Sunday night, so it had to be Bacchus. Bacchus was rolling. And somebody was projecting the Super Bowl real big, so the whole Mardi Gras parade could see it up on the buildings. And when he caught that ball, We were all at the parade. When he caught that ball, the whole St. Charles erupted.
Wow.
I mean, everywhere. Like, oh my God. And then when Plaxico caught it, people were going crazy. The Bacchus people are like throwing stuff. Nobody cared. We're like running around. Dude, it was such a great experience watching that game out there because nobody gave him a shot. Nobody gave him a shot for the underdog story.
And correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe we just don't remember this. The Giants that season were like 8-8. Like they weren't. They were.
I think they were
a
wild card, weren't they?
They were a wild card team, so they played an extra game, compared to the Patriots. And wow, just underdog. I mean, how do you beat that?
And isn't every NFC East team 8-8?
Yeah, they're always 8-8. They just
perennial 8-8s.
I know, right?
8-8s.
Well, the cool thing is
that Buffalo Bills loss with the Cowboys winning. Every team's gone 8-8 since then.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So obviously, great pick. I can't agree with you more. So there's a Crushmore. We got a Crushmore.
Crushmore right off the bat, dude. That's a little early.
So I was thinking this. Me and you have not Crushmored in a while. When we talked about we haven't. So welcome back. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Let's move to Ezra. Ezra, where are you going to go for your TJ Jazzy Jeff?
Okay, so my TJ Jazzy Jeff is Super Bowl 43. Man, yeah, Super Bowl 43.
Yeah,
so, and I'll go ahead and throw something in there. My next 3 Super Bowls are going to have at least one thing in common. Super Bowl 43 was between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Arizona Cardinals.
Great.
And this was also the year that Matt Leinart was the starter, but I think he either got hurt, something happened with him. He wasn't playing well, and his backup, who was also the backup to Manning the year before or 2 years before, which was Kurt Warner. Kirk was on the Arizona Cardinals team, and he became the starter, and dude did not let go of the position all the way through the Super Bowl. And once the Super Bowl started, man, he was killing it. Everybody's like, I thought Kurt Warner was dead. I thought, he couldn't play. He's over the hill. He was already an old rookie when he came in the league, all these different things. And when Kurt Warner was killing it, man, I'm like, dude, they're going to win this. But then Pittsburgh with their players, and then it was young guys. We got Ben Roethlisberger. We got Santonio Holmes. Man, the plays that were made in this game in the second half just showed you how anything can happen in the NFL. David Tyree was good in you guys' Crushmore. But when you have James Harrison with a pick 6 and this dude is running over 90 yards?
He was in the end zone with a 99-yard. Yeah.
Linebacker. He's a linebacker. He's on the sideline after the pick 6 getting oxygen, dude. So, I mean, he had really good blocks, but still it's just the point that was a turning point. And then San Antonio Holmes, I think, I got to give my props to Chris Carter, because Chris Carter was like the toe drag swag king back in the day before the phrase was a phrase. But Santonio Holmes comes up with the game-winning catch in this game, and they literally had to go back and look at the replay like 4 or 5 times in order to just make sure his feet were in. And everybody was like, man, look at his feet. Look at his feet. I mean, this game had just everything from start of the season to the end of the season, and just all of the plays that were made that, turned the tide for Pittsburgh to win. And Ben Roethlisberger, I think he went to like 4 Super Bowls in like his first 5 years, or 3 Super Bowls in his first 5 years. I think it was the first 6 seasons. Either way it goes, this dude came out and was doing his thing. But Kurt Warner was he was playing lights out, man. And Larry Fitzgerald was probably one of the best and is one of the best wide receivers to ever play the game. So this one is my TJ Jazzy Jeff, which I love that name, man.
So correct me if I'm wrong, and I may be wrong, because I'm trying to remember the game and the lineups, and I know players. You always see helmets, and you just don't know when they left and when they came and whatever. But was Bolden on that team, or did he leave the year before?
Yes. Anquan Bolden.
Okay, so that's one thing. And their running back, was it Edge?
Yeah, I think
Who was
it
their running back?
Edgerrin
Was it
James.
David Johnson, Edgerrin James?
No, it was before David Johnson.
I want to say it was still Edgerrin James.
Okay, so
I
look,
might be wrong.
those
I might
guys,
be
that's
wrong
a
on that
lot
one.
of Hall of Fame fuel on that team,
Yeah.
right? And here's the thing. Those guys were complete garbage. I mean, not even mediocrity. These guys weren't even middle of the pack ever. Were the bottom of the barrel team. I remember when Edge went there, everybody was like, Edge is going there to die, you know.
Yeah.
Edge is going there to die. And then, Warner went there. Warner's going there to die. Like everybody would go there to their career's over. This is the last contract I'm going to get because they were always giving like guys over the hill. These and Larry Fitzgerald, in my opinion, Larry Fitzgerald changed the culture there. He changed the culture there.
Yeah.
He then Anquan Bolden, those guys together, finally get him a quarterback. You get him a little halfback. Their defense was okay, but their defense that year I think was pretty good. And that was a heck of a game. It was on my Benjamins for honorable mention. I'm gonna have to cross that one off now too. So this game was played in Tampa. And the halftime show was Bruce Springsteen.
Come on, the boss.
Man, dude. Come on.
And the E-Band, man. Bruce Springsteen and the E-Band.
There I was.
So that's a topic for another time. They've done some weird things with halftime shows, and as much as maybe a hot take. Okay, here's a hot take. I love Bruce Springsteen. He shouldn't play the Super Bowl halftime. Like. I do. I love Tom Petty. Why was he the Super Bowl halftime show? Like,
so I know we've talked about this. The Who might be one of the greatest bands, and the Rolling Stones, the greatest band. I know you don't like them, but I mean, Hall of Fame wise, don't talk about what it does to your ears, but the idea of who they are and iconic. They're iconic. There's ding, ding, ding. But these guys did terrible halftime shows.
Right. They just aren't good. So because
they're old, they're out of prime. Nobody pays for those tickets anymore.
Right. People may hate on what their NFL's doing with Super Bowl now, but I can at least say they're trying to be relevant.
All right. Moving along. We're halfway through the mountain, man. We're halfway there. And Ezra, next guy on the mountain is Abraham Lincoln. He just significantly goes by Link. So who's your link there, Andy?
Okay, so I said the next three is going to be a lineup of things that people love about sports. Here's what sets this one apart. People love a comeback. People love a comeback story, right? We love it. We love it so much, and it's no surprise. Don't call it a comeback, although you can call this one a comeback. We're gonna go Super Bowl 51. The Patriots beat the Falcons, baby, 28-3. It's a meme that lives on forever. And if you can see on Kirk's screen, there's the final score. The Patriots were down 28-3 with 2 minutes, guys. 18 minutes left in the game. They're down by 25 points. And New England comes back and wins it in overtime. There you go, 34-28. Fantastic game. I would put this as my George, but you'll understand why my George is my George in just a few minutes. This game, so we talked about, obviously, okay, here's the thing. No shocker. I am a Falcons hater. I can't stand them. Obviously, being a Saints fan, you're not allowed to like the Falcons. Kirk lives in Atlanta now and is still rocking the black and gold. The fun thing about that is that there's probably actually more Falcons fans here than there are in Atlanta. But that's for another day. Here's the thing. So we talked about in my last one, and Kirk and I, both the last one, we talked about the helmet catch as being one of the greatest catches of all time. The only catch in my mind that could possibly surpass it is what Edelman did in this game.
Yes.
When Brady throws it to him, and it's like triple tapped into the air, and literally he catches it with like a centimeter of space between the turf and the football. I don't understand how it happened. It's another play where, look, Atlanta did not play that defensively bad. He was like triple covered. Like they did everything they were supposed to do. It's just sometimes the ball just bounces your way, right? Like it just happens. You cannot defend it any differently than you did. And this, correct me if I'm wrong, like this is when they're mounting that comeback, and if this play doesn't happen, who knows what happens to the rest of the game? So, gosh, you could talk about the poor coaching and play calling on Atlanta's point. Like, you're up 28-3. Why is Matt Ryan still throwing the ball, right? You can talk about those things. You can just talk about Tom Brady's greatness all you want and everything. And this obviously, like, it's hard to escape that just because the results are what the results are, right? Like, we can't deny it. This was one of those games, not because necessarily who won, because I'm not a Brady guy. I'm just not. But I'm more not a Falcons guy than I am not a Brady guy. So to me, this game, and I hated it. I'll just tell you, while I was watching the game, I turned it off. I don't think I turned it off. I just walked away. Like, it was such a blowout. It was, and of course, it was the blowout the way I didn't want it to go. And as I start, I'm like still kind of keeping up with them. Like, wait a minute, what's happening? Wait, did they just score a touchdown? Okay, now we kind of get a game, right? Now we kind of got a game, and it's 28-10 or whatever it was. Like, okay, they could do this, and then it just keeps happening. One cool thing in this part, and I will give Atlanta the props for this one, just because this is from my college, so I got to give the shout out where it's due. Robert Alford, pick 6 on Tom Brady. He's a Southeastern alum, so got to give some love there. But that's about it. That's all you heard of Robert Alford from that point. Much like David Tyree, you didn't really hear much. So I had to do it. We're never going to let this go. I'm going to go with
this go.
Super Bowl 51. Patriots come back from 25 points down and beat the Dirty Birds. And hey, halftime. Any guesses on who? Remember who was halftime on this one?
It was. I looked it up earlier and I forgot.
It was Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga. So we go from Bruce Springsteen to Lady Gaga. Anyway, so that's my link.
So here you go. Before we started, I said, hey, we're going to crush more on a few. I had this initially as one of the potentials, right? Because of everything that happened. But this is an honorable mention for me. And that's how I actually had the screenshot. That's why I shared the screenshot that time, because I'm like, I'm not going to do it later. But it is an honorable mention for me. I'm going to have to cross this one off for all the same reasons. You talked about I'm in Atlanta right now. You know what the difference between Atlanta and New Orleans is? Right, Atlanta. There are lots of sports. There's every sport. I mean, we've talked about it. When I was doing missions, I was trying to figure out all the professional sports teams here. There was like 21. There's like professional frisbee throwing and stuff. I mean, there's like all these things, and literally, the Falcons rank really low on the favorites of all of those. Right. Wow. Even in Atlanta. I mean, like there are Atlanta fans, but they are used to just being trash and they don't really cheer them on that well. But the rivalry between New Orleans and Atlanta, I think, increased even higher when Katrina happened, when New Orleans folks went there and then some didn't come back. There are a lot of Hoodats here. Yeah. And that thing, they have been our rival forever. And I have been to 2 or 3 of these games. I don't know that I'll ever go back to a Saints-Falcons game. I remember bringing Brittany on a date to one of those games. And it was, I mean, beers thrown at Saints fans. I mean, like, it's pretty awful. But so when this game happened, that leads up to why I love this game, right? You're right. I'm in torment. I'm like, Tom Brady, I don't want him to win another one. I mean, gosh, somebody else please win. I'm trying to take the silver lining out. And I'm like, I guess I'll cheer for Brady again. This is the 3rd game that I cheered for him. I guess I'll cheer for him. Maybe not, And as the comeback started coming back, I had mixed emotions. Do I want it to keep happening? Do I want him to get something more on his freaking stat line? Oh my God, here it comes. This guy can't do this, right? I mean, look at him. He looks unathletic. He's just, he's like, how is this guy doing this? And he's baffling us for years and years. I mean, hey, referee, check the balls. Are they inflated enough? Like, what the heck is going on? And all of a sudden it happens. And it becomes a worldwide meme that will never stop. I mean, I shared the picture with you guys the other day with the 25 Bush jersey, and it says Atlanta loses from the deficit. It's just, it ended up being a very fun game, and there were some silver linings. And so So the Falcons are 0-2 in the Super Bowl, I think now,
Yes.
and the Saints are 1-0. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal. We
That
made
says a
one
lot.
and we won it. So there you go.
And the Saints continually just like keep throwing that back at Atlanta because there is some renovations going on, I think, at the Dome, at the Superdome. And
Yes.
there's like this sign that says that you'll be 28 or whatever.
8.3.
Yeah, safer.
All right. So, Kirk, we're gonna move to your link. We're gonna let the people know where you're going for your number 2.
We're there. We're top 2, and I just have to do it. I have to bring it out and share the love of my Whodats. So we are going none other than one of the best Super Bowls ever.
Come on.
In history, 2009. Drew Brees leads this amazing team to beat Peyton Manning and the Colts. This was life-changing for me in sports, to be honest. I mean, we just talked about it. The Saints were never relevant. They were terrible. I remember when the cha-ching happened and we made the playoffs for the first time and that thing went crazy. We had the Dome Patrol. We were following bad quarterbacks. I mean, Bobby Hebert was the best quarterback we had ever had next to Archie Manning, and we were cheering this guy on. The Cajun Cannon is amazing. He'd go down in Saints lore, but he was not a great quarterback when you look at all of them in history. And I know people in the Saints world are like, wait, don't talk about the Cajun Cannon like that. But look, here's the thing. I mean, Jeff Blake and I mean, like Brooks, like Aaron.
Hey, wait a minute.
All of a sudden, what happens? And look, I'm wearing Bush's jersey. When we drafted Bush, and he didn't turn out to be the number 2 pick. He got a lot of flack. At that same time, we had just got over a big hump with a contract with Ricky Williams. We bring in Brees, who's hurt, who was going to go to Miami. Can you imagine that? We would have had Dante Culpepper instead. And then we pull in Sean Payton and then draft Marcus Colston in the 7th round. I mean, you put all these pieces together. Joe Horn was the big deal, pulling the cell phone out, signing an order. I mean, and then we go on to make a historic run. Tracy Porter with the interception, the onside kick at halftime that just like blew everybody's mind. Peyton Manning was supposed to win this. I remember we were undefeated, 13-0, I believe, at the end of the season. We decided to pull all of the starters and we lose 3 in a row, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. We're like, oh gosh, I hope this doesn't jinx us. And we battle through. Now here it is. I remember New Orleans. That's all I'm going to say. I remember New Orleans that day. We all went to my nephew's house and we watched this game. All my friends and we watched this game. And I remember the game before when we kicked the field goal to beat the Vikings. Everybody went crazy. We're going to the Super Bowl. Like we had never even gone, right? And then we go and we win, and immediately all of us look at each other and say, we're going to Bourbon Street. I mean, we walked to Bourbon Street and it was just walking around high-fiving people. Like we did it. Like we had never felt that in New Orleans, right? High-fiving. It changed the culture. Like you can say what you will. Whodat fans are some of the best in the world. I mean, they have some high expectations that were never met since then. I mean, all I got to do is look at LSU because they're fans of those usually too. Like we are just ridiculous fans, but they are passionate. And when we finally got it, gosh, what a great thing for the city, recovering from Katrina. I mean, I can go on and on. I know this is on Andy's mountain and probably should be on everybody's mountain, in my opinion. You watch, it was just a great story. I mean, everything from when Katrina happened with Gleason in the block, leading up to this point, there were so many great moves made, so many great draft picks done, coaching moves, you name it. And we did it, man. And this is, this was just one of those. So I know I didn't mention them because, okay, here's the thing. It was Super Bowl 44, 2009. The score was 31-17. Brees wins the MVP. Who was halftime? It was in Miami.
The Who.
The Who, that's right. That's what I write. The Who. And I already mentioned them. The Who. That's what I thought. Yeah. So there you go, man. There's my link. It should be George. It had only been supplanted recently. So, I mean, there you go.
Yeah, I know where you're going with your George. And all I will say about your link is I agree.
I probably won't, but
Yeah. All right, guys, man, celebrating one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time, the New Orleans Saints. Now we're going to send it over and hear your link, Ezra.
my link is Super Bowl, and you already mentioned him. I think this one was your first game. It was your
Rosie.
your Rosie. Yeah,
Oh,
your
Rushmore.
So Super Bowl 34, man. To quote, and I'm not trying to be juvenile, but to quote Cash Money taking over for the 99 and the 2000.
Mm.
Yeah.
This is what the Rams did after that season. It was the 99 2000 seasons. So like you were talking about earlier, man, this game had some of everything in it, all the storylines from Kurt Warner working at a I forgot what the name of the grocery store was, but either way, him playing in the Arena League, he even played in NFL Europe. And I want to say he was an MVP there too. Um for the 1 year he played, but it was just everything that Kurt Warner went through to be the backup, then be the starter. Then Torrey Big Game Holt was a rookie that year. They had some man. When I tell you, like the guys that were on the team, Isaac Bruce was the last. I want to say he was one of the last LA Rams to still be on the team when the 99 2000 season came, and it was just like one of those things where he had been drafted. I think he got drafted the year before they moved to St. Louis. And dude, just all of the things that came along with that season. And like I said earlier, the city was not wrapped around the Rams at all. I mean, you would hear radio blasts from the DJs and different anchors and from fans calling in. And I mean, like straight ragging the team. They said Dick Vermeil cried too much. We got a crybaby coach. He's, just all kind of negativity. And I'm like, how can you do that to your home team? And I'm like, dude, this is my home. This is where I planted my feet, putting down roots and things of that nature. I'm rooting for the home team. And so when the Super Bowl comes, I'm from Mississippi originally. Steve McNair is not far from where my wife's family grew up. In Mississippi, it's a little bitty town, dude. Like you go through there that quick. But, just to see that, and then just the end of the game, the real Mike Jones comes through and stops Dyson for I think it was like 5 seconds left in the game. And you talked about that scramble with Steve McNair. He literally missed like 3 defenders, broke out of a sack.
Dude, McNair
it
was
like
my
he was
dog,
going
man.
down. Man, when I tell you that dude, he was like strong as a house. Just sturdy guy. And for him to break out of that scramble and get a playoff, and they're like, I want to say like 5, 6, 7 yards from the end zone, and then he throws. Mike Jones stops. He's about a foot from the end zone, and it's like, man, this game, that whole season had everything in it. And at the last part of it, that was like the birth of the greatest show on turf, And for Marshall Faulk to be from New Orleans and to go from Indianapolis, everybody was like, this is crazy, and I think we brought up Edgerrin James. Edgerrin James was the one that came in after Marshall, right? In Indianapolis. I think that was who took his place. And you look at Marshall Faulk coming from there, and he was great. But then come here, and he gets that S on his chest, man. Everybody started calling him Superman, and Hall of Famers, all of them. And the last thing I'm gonna say about that particular squad, that's the only squad that I've seen that has done as well as they have, and you still have question marks on are they Hall of Famers or not. Torrey Holt, I think, is like the last person on that roster that has not made it into the Hall of Fame. And I'm talking about like Isaac Bruce, Kurt Warner, Orlando Pace. Not sure about Kevin Carter. DeMarco Farr was in that group. But he's like one of the last guys. That tandem, that wide receiver quarterback tandem or trio right there was one of the best for years. So I think he should be in the Hall of Fame, but that's my link. And that is the team that gave me like the utmost love and respect for football.
Great pick. Great pick. I mean, it's hard to argue that one. One of the classics. So that Super Bowl actually is probably the first one. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I remember like walking in at the end and my dad watching it and seeing that play happen at the end. So, that kind of was the bookend beginning of when I started really watching football. So
great pick. I have to agree. I'm going to agree. That one is a solid pick. So look, we're at the top of the mountain.
we made it. We made it to George.
Have made it.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll just go ahead and say it.
Are you gonna pick a Tom Brady Super Bowl? Which one?
I am picking Super Bowl 1. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not doing that. The best Super Bowl of all time. It's no surprise. You've seen the hat. Kirk already mentioned it, but we're going to go to Super Bowl 44 for a Rushmore.
Rushmore.
Beating the Colts 31-17 in the year 2010.
Give you the background.
2009 season. Gosh, there's so many things about this one, and you shared everything about it. That 2-point conversion with Lance Moore where he like flipped upside down and lost the ball for a second but had it, and they had to watch it. The onside kick. We didn't even talk about it. You didn't even say it. The onside kick.
Yeah, I did.
Who starts? Maybe I wasn't listening because I was just so focused on what I was going to say. The onside kick. It doesn't happen. It hasn't happened to start the second half. I mean, if that didn't happen successfully, it goes down as one of the worst plays of all time. But now it's one of the best. I love that game. We talked about the Who playing it. But look, let's go back. Let's talk about it. And it bears mentioning it again. The Saints were nobodies. The Saints were no one, right? I grew up a Saints fan. It was not the popular pick, even from a hometown standpoint. I mean, you had Cowboys fans, you have Steelers fans, you have all these people in this area that were pulling for other teams, and it was like you got to love LSU, like, and that was like the big thing. But the Saints, man, sticking with them, and like you said, Kirk, since Katrina in that 2006 season when they reopened the Dome, I remember when the Dome reopened. I remember watching Monday Night Football, watching against who? The Falcons, and blocking the kick, and Gleason, and just like tears, man. Even like talking about it now, it is so emotional because you're talking about everything that we went through for Katrina, right? I was in high school during the time, so that puts me at a different age bracket. But I remember just the chaos and the uncertainty. My family almost moved to Seattle during that time. My dad had a job opportunity up there, so thank God I'm not a Seahawks guy. So, but the Saints were almost moved to San Antonio. Like, just so many things would have happened. And since that point, Sean Payton comes in, Drew Brees, Reggie Bush. We talk about all that kind of stuff. Relevancy, we've been relevant since. But let's talk about, those playoffs. Those playoffs leading up to the Super Bowl were magical. First of all, the season, 13-3. I mean, it was crazy, right? If you remember, there was the game against the Dolphins where we came back from like 20-something points down. There was the game against the Redskins. Remember, we drew through a pick, and then Robert Meacham stripped it out from him and got a touchdown. Craziest touchdown I've seen, right? Like, there were things that happened that season where the ball bounces your way, and you just knew it was like that cliche of it's the team of destiny, right? Like it was just destined. Like we had to win. And then you go into the playoffs and you run a gauntlet of Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Sorry about your boy. We've been talking Kurt Warner up, but we ended his career in that playoff run when we
rest in peace
decided him and destroyed it. He was done. I think he played another season after that, maybe, but he might have gone into retirement there. We sent him to retirement.
Oh, wasn't that the Bonnet?
What's that?
Oh, nothing. We'll talk about that later.
That was alleged, and it never happened. Anyway, so no, but we destroyed the Cardinals. Cardinals were looking like a hot team. I remember Reggie Bush making the defense look like idiots and running into themselves. Like, it was crazy. That one play. So we beat them, and then you go on and you beat Hall of Famer, right? Brett Favre with the Vikings. And listen, people forget this, that the Vikings won that game. Like, there was no reason they should have lost that game, but Brett Favre is Brett Favre. And I love Brett Favre, but he throws across his body in the end when they could have run and just Time
Garrett
out.
frickin' Hartley.
And we Tracy Porter intercepts this ball, okay, alluding to what will happen in the Super Bowl, and then the rest is history. And gosh, when we talk about announcers too, Jim Henson. Henderson. I'm trying to think. Like, I'm not thinking of the Muppets, right? I'm thinking of anyway. When some of those calls when he says, "Pigs have flown, hell is frozen over." It's just amazing. It brings back so many memories. We go to the Super Bowl, right? And then who do we play? Okay, we had Kurt Warner. We had Brett Favre. Now it's Peyton freaking Manning. Like, we had to run some of the greatest quarterbacks to play the game. To win this Super Bowl, and then Tracy Porter with the pick, and just everything that we talked about before. I remember after this game, my wife and I we weren't married at the time, but we were dating. We decided, let's go drive to Academy and let's try to get a Super Bowl, like NFC championship shirts. It didn't happen, right? Because it was a 1.5 mile long line, people standing outside of Academy. But I remember, this is so funny. This is weird. I remember hearing on the radio, WWL played "We Are the Champions" by Queen, and being so emotional. And I was like, I've heard this song so many times, but now I understand what it means. I know what it's like. That was at the Super Bowl, actually. So when we won the Super Bowl, we had a family party over. We had people over. That was big at the time. You guys remember the Stand Up and Get Crunk was big at that time. So everybody was playing that song. Fireworks are going off. It is the most magical moment as a Saints fan, and it's what we've held on to. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened since. It should have, but we can talk about that later. Again, no fault of your guys other than they committed the penalty that wasn't called. But it's just one of those moments. Obviously, and I said, hey, these things. What do people love in sports more than their hometown team winning it? I mean, that's one of the greatest feelings. And you talked about in your last one, Ezra, you had a hometown team. You had a team to pull for, and you just felt like you were a part of that team. And, man, just so good. And then here we go. Here's the call at the end of it. If you remember, if you're a local, it's time to party with the Lombardi, New Orleans. And it's just classic, man. So it's no surprise. There's no doubt Super Bowl 44 goes down as my George of Super Bowls. And one more thing, the iconic shot at the end of Drew Brees holding up his son and the confetti falling. Just so great. And you see him now and he's like a teenager, which is crazy. But so that's my George.
Man,
Kirk, I know what you think about
it. Great additions to that. The one thing that I thought of, you were talking about going to find shirts. This is literally how my nephew's shirt business started. Because shirts were like hard to find, and he would make shirts. We actually worked for a t-shirt company, and he would make shirts like late at night and go and sell them on the side of the road. And he had to get a cease and desist from the NFL to stop it because people were wanting shirts, and he was making his own designs. But that started his business, and he does really well because of that. That's just a little side note. But man, everything you said, you were right. Emotional. I think about my dad. I remember calling him. My dad passed away about 4 years later. And I remember, no, not even 4. This is in 2009, right? So, gosh, yeah, we just made about 10 years. So I remember calling him and him being emotional, and just being like, man, we thought we'd never do this. Many years as the basement, many years under 4 wins, many years. I mean, there were a couple of times where we thought we wouldn't even win a game. I remember very, very distinctly losing to the Lions when they had just went like defeated, like they just went 0-16, and we lost to the Lions. And I'm like, how can we be this bad? How can we be this bad? And I'm gonna tell a little story on my next one about the Saints, but man, I love them. Just great pick. Ezra, you said it's on your honorable mention. We've already talked about it, probably at length, but we're probably losing our Falcons fans right now.
We've long past that.
Yeah. Y'all lost the Saints fan. I mean, the Falcons fan when you talked about that game.
Yeah. I ain't afraid of that. There's only 15 of them anyway, so it's all good.
We probably kept 3.
All right.
Okay, Kirk.
Look, hey, great pick. We're going to go to my George, and I'm going to just preface it with this. All right. So 1990, the Saints are terrible. I remember walking into the living room, and I had just got done playing Super Tecmo Bowl, and gosh, I almost get emotion just thinking about it just there. Wow. I'm playing Super Tecmo Bowl, and I would always play with the Raiders because Bo Jackson was the GOAT in the game. And I would go like 14-2, and I couldn't beat this specific team. And I come in, and I said, Dad's watching the Saints. Said, son, come watch the Saints. And I'm like, Dad, the Saints are terrible. They can't win a game. I am not cheering for them. I'm not a fan. This is 1990, 91. So I am 10 or I was 11 going on 12, depending on what time frame it was in. Anyways, I said, there's no way I'm cheering for this team. They're terrible. I don't know why you keep cheering for them. My new favorite team is a team I can't beat in Super Tecmo Bowl. They have this guy called the Nigerian Nightmare, Christian Okoye, Derek Thomas, Steve Berg. Steve Duberg. Why I said Steve Berg. And I actually talked my dad into buying me this.
What?
The Kansas City Chiefs starter jacket back in 1993. I talked my dad into this, and I became a Chiefs fan. And gosh, you know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Joe Montana. We've had Dave Craig. You talked about Trent Green. We've had awful seasons. Damon Heward as our leader for while I was going through this. Dick Vermeil was a coach. Brody Croyle. I mean, these were seasons we were going just. And then there were a couple of years we went 13-3, and we couldn't beat John Elway. We just couldn't beat him. And Marty Schottenheimer couldn't do it, so he left and went to another opposing team. He couldn't do it. And all of a sudden, we draft a guy, move up to pick Patrick Mahomes, and it is history. We're going with the best Super Bowl, in my opinion, when the Chiefs come back to beat 49ers with one of the craziest second halves. You talk about underdogs. Yeah. You talk about coming back. They weren't necessarily the underdog, but a comeback win. They're down. Bieniemy goes over. They're trying to figure out the call. Mahomes is like, call Wasp. He's like, what down and distance you need? 1st and 10? Well, I'll throw it on anything. So they call Wasp. And Tyreek gets open in the flat, makes a just crazy play on 4th down. And the Chiefs go and win the Super Bowl. Now, look, here's the thing. The Chiefs had already had one Super Bowl. It was Super Bowl number 4. I mean, gosh, that was in the 60s or the 50s. And so they hadn't won. They were one of the longest stretched teams that hadn't won before Super Bowl. And I got to see my team finally go and do it. Now, here's the thing. They've had a great run over the last 6 or 7 years or so. Even right before we got Mahomes, we had Alex Smith, who was playing really well, and they've been doing well. But now Mahomes, you had Hill, got Travis Kelce. I mean, we've had great running backs that have come through here. I've got jersey after jersey, Larry Johnson, Priest Holmes, whatever, right? And the year's 2020, they won 31-20 over the 49ers. But the year directly prior, we have a offsides call called on D Ford for Brady to go to the Super Bowl. And you don't get that call. We sack Brady. Brady then throws a touchdown on like the next freaking thing to beat the Chiefs. So they lose out. So I remember I had just given my kidney away. I was hurting, and I'm jumping in the chair, screaming at him. And then not but 2.5 hours later, a ghost passing interference call by the Rams on the Saints, and I would have had my dream Super Bowl here in Atlanta, the Chiefs against the Saints, and neither one of them got to go. They both lost on just basically the last play, and I was so like, oh, I'm so done. I am so like, how did this even happen? My boy Mahomes comes back the next year, and he's gone to 4 in a row AFC championships. And And I think they even getting rid of Tyreek, he's got a shot to do it again. You got to deal with the Bills. But, man, I can't tell you. This is, to me, when you talk about sports enjoyment, and like I was all of one. I don't have many Kansas City friends. I do have a few online, but not in my area. You know, I don't live in Kansas City. I'm not from Kansas City. Nothing to do with Kansas City. They've been bad. Nobody's just cheering for them unless you're getting on the bandwagon. And so for me to be just celebrate like by myself, like, I mean, it's like nobody can understand it. It was just so awesome. So my George, Super Bowl 54, the Chiefs come back with the wasp play. There you go.
Yep. So here's my thing about that Super Bowl. I mean, Chiefs, whatever. I don't hate them. I don't really root for them. But I do root against the 49ers. So I'm cool with that.
Almost always.
I have a lot of family from the West Coast that likes to love on the 49ers. And then you also talk about Saints back in the day, just the rivalry stuff there. So anytime a team will beat the 49ers, not quite as much hate as I have for the NFC South opposing teams, but yeah, I'm not a big Niners fan. So hey, I will agree with you. I will say your link was better than your George, but that's again just me personally, obviously. But
now it's time to finish this whole thing off, and I think I'm pretty sure I know where this is going to go.
Ezra, what's your George?
This actually is going to blow your mind as to why, not necessarily the team, and it's not going to be the Super Bowl that you think. The Super Bowl you think is probably one of my honorable mentions, but with that being said, the Super Bowl that is my George is Super Bowl 36. Super Bowl 36 between the Rams and the Patriots.
Really?
Yeah, that's my George. Here's the reason why it's my George. And here's my criteria was what type of an effect did it have on the league and the league culture, and why in sports in general. One of the reasons why this game is one of my favorites is because this is where I learned that I had to get rid of hatred, because I hated like New England and Boston sports. Being in St. Louis as long as I was, I couldn't stand the Red Sox because they were beating up on my Cardinals. Couldn't stand New England because that was the start of them beating up on my Rams. Even at the end of Tom Brady's tenure in New England, the first team he won a Super Bowl with or against was the same team he lost the Super Bowl. I mean, he won his last one with, the Patriots. So he beat my Rams to get his first ring as a Patriot. He beat my Rams to get his last ring as a Patriot. Bookend rings, and I'm not happy about it. But the first game with Super Bowl 36 was that game created a GOAT, a ghost, and started to put the end to the greatest show on turf. And it also was the transition from Major League Baseball and the NBA not being America's top two sports. And the reason why I say that is because the dynasty started with that game with New England. The next thing that ended up happening with that game, Tom Brady, when I think Kirk said it earlier, someone said it earlier, his stature as a quarterback, and you can go back and look at his draft photo. This dude, I mean, I think Tutu Atwell is bigger than Tom Brady was as a rookie.
Right.
But you look at this whole game, Spygate, and everything that came from it. Spygate will be years later, but they will go all the way back to this particular game as one of the games to say, hey, maybe the Rams were right. But it was so many different things that about this particular matchup that happened. And even in that season, that was the same playoff season that they had the tuck rule controversy against the Raiders. Adam Vinatieri became a GOAT kicker from that particular point. I mean, he was just, I mean, we can say what we want to about Tom Brady, but Adam Vinatieri was one of the most important pieces of that team for like their next 4 Super Bowls and next 3 Super Bowls. But it was in that game. That game, another thing that was important to me or that stuck out to me was you had 2 hometowners playing in their hometown stadium that they played playoff football games in with Marshall Faulk and Aeneas Williams. They went back home to play. Mm-hmm. You know, they were playing in the Superdome in that Super Bowl. And so that was like one of the biggest stories, man. And they got a chance to talk about just how they grew up in New Orleans, and you got to see a part of Marshall Faulk and a part of Aeneas Williams, which Aeneas Williams still lives in St. Louis now, and ministry in ministry. But it was like so many things about that game. Bill Belichick was one of the first coaches to figure out how to beat, even though he probably recorded it, but one of the first coaches to figure out how to beat the Rams and lower the points, because I want to say for those 3 seasons they led the NFL, or at least was in the top 3 in the NFL in scoring, for at least 3 seasons. So it was so many things. And the last part where I said created ghosts, who remembers Drew Bledsoe?
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That particular game, that season was the season that he got injured and that Tom Brady took over. They go to the Super Bowl, and after that, it's like, where did Bledsoe go?
Mm-hmm.
Who can say where Bledsoe played that following year, or if he was still a Patriot that following year, or whatever the situation was? He was a great quarterback coming out of the 90s, coming into the 2000s. Bledsoe was a great quarterback, and he was brought in to be that. But just like Trent Green, he gets injured, and then you have the nobody person come in because what is it, sixth round, 199 pick, 199. Yeah, so I think Kurt Warner was picked higher than Tom Brady was. But like all of these things came in, and it just basically changed the landscape of the NFL. And like I said, Paul Tagliabue leaving out as the commissioner, and he's like looking at, okay, NFL is where I'm at now. I mean, it's so many things that happened after that season that put the NFL ahead of all of the sports leagues in the United States. Just off of that game.
Surprising pick. Very surprising pick. Very quickly, I want to say this. That I went to, not to that Super Bowl, but I went to that NFL experience when that happened. If you guys remember, the NFL experience happens there. And I remember distinctly there was one exhibit where they had like molds of NFL players, and I literally fit inside of Ray Lewis's leg. Like at the time, I remember like I am the size of Ray Lewis's thigh. It's crazy. And that was one of the things that I immediately was like, oh my gosh, these guys are massive. So yeah, great pick in New Orleans. So really cool there. Did not think you were going to go there because your team lost it. But Kirk, what you think about that one?
I only knew that you weren't going to pick the main Super Bowl because Andy kind of had given me some insider track. He's like, I don't think you're going to believe who he's picking. A couple thoughts immediately. One, the Chiefs lost one very recently. There's no way I would put that on. Number two, this particular game had a lot of really good storylines, like you said. Tom Brady, that whole deal. But number two, reason I would never put this on there, Tom Brady won it, and I didn't want but here's the thing, I actually did cheer for Tom Brady in this one. I cheered for the Rams. The first one, when this one came up, I was like, okay, so the Rams got theirs. This is a great story. He had the Tuck thing going on, had all the stuff it says that he shouldn't have won it, and he got it. Going back to 20 years ago or whatever it was, there's no way that I thought that would lead on to the career that it did. So I was definitely cheering for those guys then. But I do want to add I don't know if it's a hot take or just something, like just being depressed, I guess, or sad for someone. Imagine if you were Curtis Martin.
Oh man.
Curtis Martin played for the Patriots for like 4 years right before this run, and then ended up playing for the Jets.
The Jets, yeah.
Finish of his Hall of Fame career. And what a great player, but like actually looking over across the fence and actually going, oh yeah, I'm gonna go play for the Jets and do something, and then then that team kind of blowing up. But it's a little shocking. I love the criteria and how you mapped it out, and so I'm good with it. I am great
Shoot, man,
Well,
that loss had me. Like I said, I had some issues after that game. Like I'm talking about some emotional issues I had to deal with for some years, man. If I saw a Patriot, and I love the United States of America, I just don't like that logo on the side of that jersey and that helmet, man. And
Yeah.
even, I even had a NFL twin set on my bed when I was a kid, and I used to go to sleep beside Pat Patriot.
oh my gosh.
You know,
Yeah.
so when that happened, it was like, man, this can't be real. Some of the best route runners, some of the best, running backs. I'm like, it's not. Bill Belichick is not this good of a. And then when I found out he was a defensive guru, a defensive coach and things of that nature, I got a little bit more respect. And of course, I have a lot more respect for Tom Brady since he's left and played with Tampa Bay. So it kind of like helped me to ease some of the pain and realize he is a great quarterback. But like I said, that game hurt, man. So it was hard for me to do that. But like you said, with my criteria set up and everything, it's like I see how the landscape of football changed after that.
There's so many Super Bowls that we could have said that we didn't say. And we like to talk about some honorable mentions. So here's how we're going to do it, Ezra. We're not going to expand on them. We're just going to say the game, maybe say the year, the number, who played that real quick. Don't really expand on it, but we're gonna kind of list some honorable mention ones maybe that are on our list. But here's the catch. You can't list anyone that was already mentioned. So if it was already mentioned and it was on your honorable mentions, scratch that sucker off. And if it gets mentioned right now during the honorable mentions, you take that off as well. So I will just say that I had to eliminate, I think, 2 of mine because they were mentioned already. So we'll just do one at a time. I'm going to get started with our Benjamins, with our honorable mention. My first Benjamin, Super Bowl 52, Philadelphia beats New England. I got to go for that one. Philly special happens in that game. Nick Foles wins the game, and it's 41-33, barn burner. So anyway, that's one of my honorable mentions. What about you, Kirk?
Well, you stole mine there. Stole mine there. I think I can save this one for later. So I got a couple that I think I can save for later. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with a Tom Brady Super Bowl, man. To be honest, I'm gonna go with the Patriots over the Carolina Panthers, Super Bowl 38. Vinatieri with the kick, the reason that this one is really important to me, I was actually stationed in Iraq while watching this game, and as I was watching the game, I was by myself overnight in a office space watching, protecting $3.5 million. That was a big.
Okay, well, I could see the tie-in there.
Yeah. So there's that, and I'm watching it on the internet while I was there. I was almost about to come home, but anyways,
it doesn't hurt that they beat the Panthers too. So
and the reason I picked it obviously is a Saints interdivision rival. Not seeing them win it. Yeah, there you go.
Ezra, what about you? What's your first honorable mention?
My first honorable mention is going to be the '85 Bears playing in 1986 Super Bowl 20, because Walter Payton is from Mississippi, went to Jackson State. I love my Mississippi Hall of Famers, and I mean, who doesn't like Refrigerator Perry, man?
Come on, that's a good one. Okay,
shuffle, dude.
Good pick. Yeah, then there's iconic. There you go. Boom. All right, next one for me. I'm gonna ride the bandwagon of NFC South hate, and I'm gonna go Super Bowl 50. Peyton Manning ends his career by beating the Carolina Panthers 24-10. I love that Cam Newton lost that game. So.
Yes, that was my next pick. Good pick. Good pick.
What about you? What's next?
All right, I'm gonna go with the 49ers over the Bengals. Joe Montana with the sweet pass to John Taylor. Yep, that is Super Bowl number 23.
Nice, awesome. Ezra, next on the honorable mention list.
Honorable mention list. Next one is going to be. Oh man, I forgot which one was it where Seattle threw the pick. Yeah, 2014 was when it was.
What
It
is
was way back. It was the last time that they've been to the Super Bowl, matter of fact.
2015 was the Super Bowl, 2014 season. Okay, good one. Yeah, I hate that one, but okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Patriots 28-24. Wow.
Yeah, here we go. My next one, first Super Bowl I ever watched, made it here. Super Bowl 35, Ravens over the Giants. That defense, I gotta go for that one. Ravens destroyed the Giants 34-7. First Super Bowl I ever watched.
So I'm going to go with Super Bowl 33, where the Denver Broncos beat the Atlanta Falcons with some more NFC hate. John Elway gets another one. I mean, he went back to back right there. So, man, Terrell Davis, you name it, and seeing the Dirty Birds go down. That's where the Dirty Birds started. So, yeah, Broncos win 34-19.
All right, what about you, Ezra? You got another one?
Yes. Ben Roethlisberger, I think this was his first win, Super Bowl 40, I think it was. I was a big Roethlisberger fan. I know he got picked like 11th overall and all that other good stuff. That was one that kind of stuck out to me.
Okay, all right. Here's my last one. And Ezra, I'm sorry for this one, but I'm going to pick it for a reason, and I won't explain too much, but I'll tell you why. Super Bowl 53, I know I'm going for Tom Brady again. The only reason I'm picking this one is because he beat the Rams, and we were supposed to be in that Super Bowl. That's why I'm picking this one as my last one here. You did pick my other one, beating Atlanta, but I had to pull this one out. So 13-3, I hated that Super Bowl. I hated it. It was because it was boring, and then we were supposed to be in it, but I'm going to pick it despite the Rams and despite the no call. That's what I'm going to do. All right, what about you, Kirk?
Oh my God, that's probably my more of least
it would make mine.
favorite Super Bowls in history because
right.
should have been the Chiefs versus the Saints. Should have been Chiefs versus the Saints. Anyways, all right, I'm going to finish off with none other than the Chiefs' very first Super Bowl. Rest in peace, Lynn Dawson. He just passed away a couple days ago. They go in there and win in Tulane Stadium. They win in Tulane Stadium 23-7 over the Vikings. Super Bowl number 4.
All right, last one. Wrap it up here, Ezra. What do you got?
This is my last one. I'm going super recent, Super Bowl 56.
Yeah.
And my Rams beat the Bengals, man. I mean, come on. They got to go with that one. It was a great
Joe Shiesty, man. You beat Joe.
Yeah.
There you go.
Bye.
There you go. So, hey, we have so many Super Bowls that we talked about today. We obviously had our top 4. We had some Rushmores that happened today. We had a good list of honorable mentions, a lot of NFC South hate, which is good when it's targeted away from the Saints. So, anyway, that's it's been a great time today. Ezra, man, thank you. Thank you for being on the show today. It's been awesome. We look forward to coming and joining you on the Welcome to the League podcast. Look, for those in the Rushmore community, in the comments, what were your favorite Super Bowls? Look, you know what's really cool? We shared personal stories about Super Bowls. Type in a little story, something you remember about that Super Bowl. What made it so exciting for you? What's your top 4 Super Bowls? Maybe some honorable mentions. What was your favorite Super Bowl halftime show, commercials? We love the Super Bowl. So drop those in the comments. Make sure you're liking, sharing, subscribing, doing all those kinds of things. And Kirk, what else you got to say to the Rushmore community?
Yeah, just real quick, man. Thank you guys for everything you've done. We just passed 5,000, and then a couple days later, 5,100 views since being on for 8 months. We have surpassed 170 subs. But look, man, we are rolling, man. Thank you to all of our friends that have been on there. If you want to come and join us, we're doing football this month. We are coming up. We're coming in strong next week, next month with TV for the fall lineup. We're going to do food in November because of Thanksgiving, and we're going to finish this year off with Christmas and an end of the year bash. We've got a lot planned, a lot going on. Sub, like, join, whatever. Thank you for the support. Follow us all on the social media. We're going to have all the Welcome to the League stuff down the bottom. Be sure you're keeping in touch with us on social, because you're going to see who's winning it in our fantasy league and how that's all going. It's been a great time. Next week, it's another Football Rushmore coming to you. And we thank you guys. Thank you. Before we sign off, I just want to let you guys know we're going to start something new. We're going to do our Benjamins from here on out as a second segment. If you want to see some of our fun games, we got some extras coming for you. Be sure to check us out on TikTok and in the shorts and support us, because that's where all the fun games are going to be. You should see this week what our favorite super team offense is going to be for football, just like we did for baseball. And man, let's sign off, man. So Andy, how in the world do we tell our friends goodbye?
This is the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top four
and nothing more.
Peace!